Hello, hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Sideline Speaks with myself, Brittany Jones, alongside Jason Collins and Kevin Walker. What's going on, K Walker and Jay?
All is well. All is well. Looking forward to a great one.
Everything's good. A lot of good stuff to get into tonight. Should be a fun show.
Absolutely, absolutely. Welcome back, Jay. Was not here. We got a lot to discuss. And part of it is on your hat, but that is a for later discussion. And I am bragging already at the beginning of the daggone show. Yes, I am. If you don't know, Jay is a not only a Penn State fan, but he did play. He played for Penn State, and I am an Ohio State fan. Although I do support my fellow Penn State Nittany Lions, I'm Ohio State first and foremost. But we'll get into that later. We got a lot of sports going on today because if you don't know, today was the NFL trade deadline. Actually, before I get into that, I just want to say if you still got time to do it, K Walk actually has a sticker up top above his Temple sweatshirt. Go and vote. Make sure you vote is very, very important. If somebody told you your voice don't matter, do not listen to them idiots because it does. They're telling you that for a reason. Make sure you go vote. Now let's get back to the regularly scheduled program here. All right.
All set.
Um,
Set.
but back to it. Today, if you don't know, not only is election day, but also is NFL trade deadline. It's a lot going on today. A lot of exciting moves occurred. We're going to get into a number of them, but before we get started, if you can, please like, comment, and subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it. If you could share our channel, we will also greatly appreciate it. We're slowly but surely growing. Any support is always appreciated, of course. And also, if you have any comments or questions while we are live talking, we'll do our best to answer your respond to your comments and answer your questions. We're also on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Sideline Speaks, and anywhere you can listen to your podcast. Now back to the NFL trade deadline. Let's hop into it. Let's see, where should I start first? Because there's a lot of trades going on here. Let's just start from one of the biggest trades that we heard about. The Lions, the Detroit Lions, who currently lead the NFC North, I believe. The Lions got Zadarius pass rusher Zadarius Smith and the 2026 seventh round pick. The Browns get a 2025 fifth round pick and a 2026 sixth round pick. So are the Lions instantly the team to beat in the NFC? So answer that question, but also your thoughts on the trade, of course. K Walk, I'm gonna come to you first.
Yeah, for the regarding the trade first. Yeah, I think it's a great trade. It's a trade that they needed to have happen after losing Aiden Hutchinson, with that devastating leg injury. It was hard to it's hard to replace him, but getting a guy like Smith instantly, gets them back in the hunt. I don't think they lost too much ground there, Britt, the way they've been playing. To be honest with you, and the way the other teams in the NFC has been playing as well, I think they were still one of the favorites, if not the favorite in the NFC right now. But I think this puts them right back up in there and in the talk for sure. Just definitely a player that can wreak havoc. I don't know if he's an Aiden Hutchinson. Maybe it's a push, but it's definitely not. It's definitely not a downgrade by any stretch. So if you can get a guy of his caliber, then that's saying a lot, especially with that with Aaron Glenn's defense and the way they fly around and the way that they complement that offense as well. So yeah, I like the trade. Much needed trade for the Lions, and it definitely keeps them in the conversation as the favorites. And maybe, in my opinion, they probably right now are the favorites to come out of the NFC.
Yeah, I like the trade as well. I like this Detroit Lions team. I was rooting for them last year, but it was just unfortunate how the one playoff game went. Hopefully they learned from that last year. But Zadarius Smith is, although he is older, he is very productive. He's a Pro Bowl pass rusher for a reason. Extremely talented. This team is exciting. They're young still, or fairly young. The head coach Dan Campbell has these players playing hard every single game. I wish I honestly I wouldn't mind if Detroit Lions got their first Super Bowl this year. I think it'll be exciting. I think right now they are the favorites to win the NFC. Anything can happen, of course. We're just predicting. But boy, I mean, K Walk, you just said it all. It's not. they didn't really take a big hit after Hutchinson went out. You know, that even though he went out, they were still playing well the last couple of games, still being a dominant overall team. You add this guy,
Yeah.
I don't know of too many linemen who can slow him down. So it's going to be very interesting how offensive linemen end up doing their schemes, their blocking schemes against him. But he is strong. His technique is is top tier. So even at the age of 32, 33 years old, so he's still very, very talented. But Jay, what are your thoughts on this trade and if the Lions instantly are the team to beat in NFC?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you guys said. I think it was a much needed trade. Obviously, as Kay pointed out, losing Hutchinson, felt like they needed to go get somebody to kind of fill in that role. So I think that was a great move. And yeah, Britt, I even think without the trade, honestly, they were probably still the favorite in the NFC. I just think that up to this point in the season, they've been the most consistent football team. We've seen some other teams have some ups, some downs, some highs, some lows, but the Lions have played pretty consistently over the first 7 or 8 weeks. So I
Hmm.
definitely think they're the favorite, Brit. I think this is a football team that knows their identity and they go out and play that
Yeah.
way
Great
week in
point.
and week out. So if you're a Detroit Lions fan, you've got to be feeling really good about where they are right now.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be. I'm excited to see the playoffs. Um, those maybe top 4 or 5 teams, see how everything goes with these top 4 or 5 teams in the NFC. I feel like the NFC is getting a little bit more exciting, in my opinion, than the AFC. But speaking of the AFC and the NFC, going back to the Detroit Lions, can the Detroit Lions, knowing that we know the last couple of years, this team is undefeated, the only undefeated team in the NFL, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs, can they beat the Chiefs? This has been a big question mark about who can potentially beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. It seems like everybody has the Chiefs going back to the Super Bowl, is winning a third Super Bowl in a row, which will make NFL history. No team has ever won 3 straight Super Bowls. It seems like everybody has them. It seems like it's scripted. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put it out there. They already got it planned for them to win. Can the Lions upset the Chiefs and break this old three-peat nonsense up? Jay, I'm gonna start with you on this.
I absolutely think they can. The kind of still a line from K Wall. Can they? Yes. Will they? I don't know, but I absolutely
Right.
think they can, Brett. I think they have the team to do it if they play their
Mhm,
best football. Now, I mean, I do think we have to remember, like, Dan Campbell can be a little bit of a gambler, and I
Yeah.
think that hurt him last year in the playoffs.
mhm,
So I think he's going to have to maybe tighten some things up. I know he likes to be aggressive. I know he likes to go for it all the time on fourth down. But I just think sometimes in playoff games and maybe potentially a Super Bowl, points are at a premium. And if you have an
Yeah.
opportunity to get points, you got to take it. So I think they have the kind of team that can do it because even though Kansas City is undefeated and everybody might already be ready to crown them, I don't think they've been necessarily dominant this year. I mean,
No.
they've
mhm.
found a way to win games, which is to their credit, but I don't think they've looked dominant. And I don't even think they've actually played their best football yet. So I think Detroit is one of a couple of teams that could absolutely give them a run for
Mhm.
their money.
Jay, I said that I think last week. I just feel like the Chiefs, they don't look the same to me.
Yeah.
I know they're winning, they're finding ways to win, and we have seen teams that have done the same exact thing in the past several years that have found ways to win the ugly wins, and doesn't look the same with the Chiefs. So I necessarily don't have them three-peating. I know everybody else has them already three-peating. I do think that the Lions can do it. I think they have the talent to do it. I think they have, although, like you guys said, he's very aggressive by nature, and Dan Campbell with a lot of his calls. As long as he learned from last year, I would say, as long as he learned from last year, I think they can also beat the Chiefs. I don't see a reason why they would be scared of the Chiefs. And they're claiming that Hutchinson could possibly be back. So you have Zadarius Smith and Hutchinson. Whew, my goodness, I don't know how your offensive line stops either one of those guys, but together, that is going to be a load to try to scheme up against. Even if I understand Patrick Mahomes is on that other side, I have a lot of respect for Patrick Mahomes and the talent that he has. But when you got a defensive line like the Lions have, my goodness, it's going to make things a lot tougher. So yes, I do think they have the ability to do it. Will they do it? Yes, that is another question that we could probably get to later. But K Walk, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys mentioned. I just have to add, like, I think they can do it. To be honest with you, I
Hmm.
think they have all of the pieces. And you mentioned Aiden Hutchinson possibly coming back. We don't know if he'll be the same. Obviously, he'll probably be a little slower, a little rusty, if you will. But nonetheless, he'll be a presence without question along opposite side of Smith. And when you look at this team, they have everything that you want. They can stop the run,
Hmm.
and they can run the ball. They have the two-headed monster and Jameer Gibbs and then David Montgomery as well. We know about St. Brown. We know about Williams. We know about Laporta. And let's not forget that Jared Goff is a Super Bowl winner. So he's been there and
Hmm.
he's
True.
done that. So as long as Dan Campbell doesn't get in their way, I think they got a legitimate chance of winning it all this year, without question. But Dan Campbell, I know he's an aggressive guy. We get it. He likes to bite kneecaps, but at sometimes you got to know when to hold him, know when to fold him, know when to walk away and take those 3 points, as Jay mentioned. So again, so with that being said, yeah, I think they can, and they have a good
Hmm.
chance of doing it as well. And so if they do match up, I do like the Lions for sure.
The only thing I will say about the Chiefs, though, guys, is that like if you're going to beat them, you need to go ahead and beat them. Like
Yeah.
don't take this thing late into the fourth quarter because
Hmm.
as long as 15 is on the other side, like until someone shows me that they can stop him when he has the ball
Hmm.
on the last drive to win the game, he's a hard guy to bet against. Like he almost has that Jordan-esque quality. Like
Yeah.
when Mike had the ball at the end of the game, it was going in. And Mahomes is kind of starting to feel that same way. If you give him the ball
Right.
late, he's going to beat you. So I think if you're going to get him, you better be up by a couple touchdowns late. Don't give that guy a chance to win the game.
And Jay, that's a great point. You mentioned the number 15. I'm going to mention the number 18 here, and that's the seven refs that come along with the Chiefs. So 11 plus seven is 18. So you got to factor him into the equation each and every time.
Hmm.
And I don't care. You can call me a hater. You can call me anything you want to, but they get away with so much. It's not even funny. Last night was a prime example on that last play, that last touchdown play. Taylor, who does it every single pass play, he false starts, he
Hmm.
holds, he lines up in the backfield each and every play, and it's never called. It's almost like the refs just like they do it all the time. I'm sick of calling, and I'm sick of
Yeah.
calling it. Hey, if it's there, you got to call it. But all seriousness, I mean, I really wholeheartedly believe that those refs have they're in their pocket, man. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to sound like a hater, but I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I'm going to say that it's hard to beat. Anytime you go 18 on
Hmm.
11, it's going to be hard to beat for sure.
I don't. Hey, look, I know it's going somewhere different. I don't know if I could disagree. I was watching the game last night, and it happens with other games with the Chiefs, and they called a holding call on the Bucks that wasn't really much, and I'm looking like that's not. It
Yeah,
was in the beginning of the game when they were driving,
the draw
and it
play.
set
Yep.
them back, and I was just like, that's not really too much of a hold. I'm confused, but then I seen on the other side, and I was purposely watching the Chiefs' offensive linemen, and the amount of time these guys hold. And I'm like, so you don't call anything on them? So every time they threw a flag, I was just like, oh, this is going against the Bucks. I'm telling you, before that, I even knew what it
Yeah.
was. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
already going against the Bucks, regardless of if it's offense or defense. What we need to do, and I'm gonna do this 1 week, I'm gonna look at the amount of calls that was called against the Chiefs this year, compared to maybe their some of their opponents, and just see what that disparity is, because I feel like it's a lot larger than what most people are, even nobody's really talking about it, but a lot larger than what people are
I
talking
am,
about.
but that Super Bowl last season, man, the Chiefs led the league in holding penalties, and
Hmm.
all of a sudden they come up against one of the best pass rushers in the game, pass rushers teams in the game,
Hmm.
in the 49ers. They don't get called for any holding, but the best
Right.
offensive tackle in the game gets called for a cheap holding. I'm just simply saying, ladies and gentlemen, just simply saying.
All
I
right, guys.
digress.
Let's move on to our next trade that occurred, next big time trade that occurred today, and that's the Washington Commanders. Wow. last time I mentioned that in any trade, really, at the trade deadline. But the Washington Commanders get cornerback Marshawn Lattimore and a 2025 fifth round pick. The Saints get a 2025 third, fourth, and sixth round pick. Thoughts on this trade? Jay, I'm gonna come to you first.
I love it. I love it because the Commanders are trying to win now,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously cornerback is a high value position. So if you could upgrade at that position with Lattimore, I think it's a great move. And Britt, you alluded to it in some of your messages today. Like they're going to need to be able to cover some of the good receivers in the NFC,
Mm-hmm.
and particularly the Eagles, who are going to be a team that's right there, not only fighting for the division, but also fighting, to be in the NFC championship. So I love the trade. I love the win now attitude. And we've talked about it before on this show before the season even started. We all agreed that Washington was probably a lot better than a lot of people were
Right.
ready to give them credit for. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if anybody expected Jaden Daniels to play sort of the way that he's played up to this point, but I
Mm-hmm.
feel like they're putting all their chips at the middle of the table, and this is a great move, and I think it's going to help them tremendously.
K-Rock, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it kind of like what I said in the thread is that I thought this kind of locked it up for him, and I'm not saying that it's just a sly against the Eagles. I think it's just a two-team race right now, but I think
For the
that's exactly
Cowboys?
what they need. It's a two-team race, man. It's a two-team race, man. So yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly you guys hit it right on the head. There is that they needed a corner to lock up to focus on. You guys, I know you guys were taking the political route there and saying the receivers in the NFC East, but we all know what receivers we're talking about, and that's AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and even Dotson. It looked like Dotson had a little bit of a wake up with that big time catch he
Mm-hmm.
had on Sunday as well. So yeah, I think that's a really good move there, and they're adding the pieces, slowly but surely. I mentioned in our thread that Adam Peters is taking a page out of John Lynch's playbook. Remember, he was the assistant GM for the 49ers before he came over to the Commanders. So he's doing everything that we see the 49ers doing, not big names, but he's putting the right pieces in the right place. So I think this is an outstanding move. I think the trade was fair for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I know you like to ask, but who got the better of the deal. I think this is an evenly
Right.
a trade that you can say that both teams win here. But yeah, I think it's a great move for the Commanders, and once he gets a hold of that
Mm-hmm.
defense of scheme and what they like to do, he'll complement those other D backs around him. So really, really good move by the Commanders.
Yeah, I know we're in the same division, but I've never been a hater of the Commanders. Um, I think it's a very good move as well. I love what they're doing over there as far as the offense side of the ball. I like Jaden Daniels, of course. I told you guys prior to the draft that I like Jaden Daniels a little bit more than I like Caleb Williams, and it could have been, uh, 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 I don't know. It could have just been me talking, but it was just something in Jaden Daniels that I liked about him coming into this NFL season, and he's showing everything I was talking about.
Hmm.
He has no fear. I love that he has no fear. I do wish he don't take the unnecessary hits if he does not have to,
Yeah.
because he is running around with some messed up ribs right now, but he's able to play, which is good. But defensively, I think this is exactly what they needed. Like you guys alluded to, you have AJ Brown, who was very difficult to stop. You have Devontae Smith. We've seen what he just did this past Sunday. Um, and I know they were having issues with Emmanuel Forbes. I know they didn't have too many confidence in him. I hope, he could figure it out some way, somehow. The only issue I do have with this is not necessarily the trade, because I think Marshawn Lattimore is a fantastic player, is hopefully he can stay healthy. I think health is something that's very important. He has had some health issues the last couple of years. But this does add another level to that defense that was playing, in my opinion, better than what I thought. That is currently playing
Yeah.
better than what I thought they would be playing at this point in time. So it just felt like they was just throwing different pieces together just to try to create a defense in the offseason. And I didn't think they were going to be this good that they are as of right now. I'm not saying they're like top 5 defense in the NFL, but they're
Hmm.
much better than what I assume prior. And these guys are playing. Bobby Wagner, he is
Yeah.
making plays like he was in his prime days with Seattle, and it's throwing me off unbelievably. And I'm just like, can you slow it down, please? Because I need to beat y'all. I need my team to beat you guys. But no, I do agree that it is a two-team race at this point in time between the Eagles and the Commanders. They're virtually tied. They're not quite tied. The Commanders are number one because they haven't had their bye week yet. So this week and next week will tell me a lot. You know, the Commanders play the Steelers. That defense is tough. I know they just made a trade, which we'll talk about in a second. So that team is very good as well. And then they play the Eagles next week. So that's going to be a fun, exciting game, hopefully. Um, but yeah, we'll see. But quick question before we move on to the next trade, since we're talking about this particular trade, which involved the Saints, of course. Over the weekend, we found out, was that over the weekend? Yes, over the weekend, we found out that they fired their head coach,
Hmm.
Dennis Allen. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on this firing? K Walk, I'm gonna come to you.
Yeah, I get why they did it, but at the same time, I don't because the Saints, even though they started off what 2-0, and I think they were like,
Mhm.
they outscored their opponents. They're like with 91 points differential or something like that. But then the injury bug started to hit them, and that's what ultimately. And we're talking about they lost Derek Carr for a few games. Chris Olave went down with a few games.
Mhm.
Then they lose to Taysom Hill. Then they lose a bunch of other guys. The list goes on, and it's hard to overcome that. Overcome injuries like that, and then at the same time, you're playing, some teams that are, going to have playoff aspirations and some Super Bowl aspirations. So, but I guess when you look at it, maybe they're gonna. He lost the locker room. That's the only thing that I can think of is that he lost the
Mhm.
locker room, especially after that loss and the way that he lost to the Panthers on Sunday. That's the only thing that I could think of that he could do there because there's only so many coaches out there that you can name one, and they'll be on one hand if you can name them. Is that that could write that particular type of ship when you lose so many guys like that, and being in a division that they're in, with the Falcons, with the Bucks, as well, and the Panthers were supposedly they were supposed to be bottom feeders, if you will, but to lose to them in the fashion that they lost to them, and with them going back, meaning the Panthers going back and forth with their quarterback, yeah, I guess they just felt that someone had to go, someone had to be an scapegoat. So Dennis Allen, and so I get it, and I don't get it, but I get it at the same time.
Yeah, I'm not big on the head coach losing their job if so many players are injured. I'm with you on that, K Walk. I don't feel like that's the head coach's fault. Beginning of the season they were doing well, and all of a sudden injury bug really kind of
That
hit them hard. Um, and I mean really hit them hard. So I think Dennis Allen should have at least been able to last throughout the entire
yeah,
season.
I agree.
But I guess what are you gonna do? I guess in that case, that maybe the Commanders are happy he didn't last throughout the entire season because if he was still there, they may not get Marshawn Lattimore. Of course, we
This is
don't
true.
know. But Jay, what are your thoughts on the firing of Dennis Allen?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, I'm assuming they came to the decision that he wasn't going to be back next year, so maybe they just felt like, look, we're going to move on from this
Get
guy.
ahead of it.
Let's get it done now. K Walk, I think your point is a good one that maybe he lost the locker room. Like, what are they on, like a 7 game losing streak? So
Yeah,
maybe they just felt like
correct.
the morale, the leadership, it just these guys were no longer listening to what he was
Right.
saying. So I think if that's the case, I could see why they'd want to move on. It's just strange because, like you said, they came out like world beaters the
Yeah.
first 2 weeks of the season,
What?
and then to just have that type of precipitous drop, I mean, something obviously went wrong with that team. So, look, if they were going to move on at the end of the season, why not move on now? They can start figuring out sort of what direction they want to go in. So, I kind of agree with you guys. It feels like it's a little unfair because of the injuries, but you guys know at the end of the day, the burden always falls back on the head
Yep.
man. So if somebody's got to
Mhm.
go, it's going to be him.
Another quick question pertaining to this. Derek Carr. Um, is Derek Carr who we or who most people think he is as far as just being a great overall quarterback, because he was called out recently by former wide receiver Michael Thomas. If you didn't see those comments, they're out there on X, formerly known as Twitter. Go check him out. But he definitely got called out by him. Is Derek Carr one of the top tier quarterbacks in the league, like people like to say that he is? Anybody can take this.
Go ahead, K. Well,
No, definitely not a top tier guy, but I think he's a good quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
especially in that system. What I think is Club K Club. I know what's his name. I can't think of his name. He came from the 49ers. Kubiak, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think what his offensive scheme, and he comes from that Kyle Shanahan tree. I think what with the weapons that he had around him, with the Olaves, with the Kamaras, with the I forget the other receivers there, but I think with that offense that they had and the weapons that they have, I thought he was a serviceable quarterback, and I thought that was a really good fit for him. Would I put him in the top tier? I'm not going to put him in the top tier, but I thought he was a good
Mm-hmm.
quarterback, maybe third tier. Especially with that team, I thought he would be
Mm-hmm.
really be good. I thought that was a really good marriage, but maybe we could have seen what it truly could have been if not for the injuries.
Right.
That's something that is going to be that's going to be the age old question going in. What would have happened if this team would have stayed healthy? Everyone would stayed healthy, and Olave didn't continue to get the
Mm-hmm.
concussions and things of that nature. But yeah, I think that's what it ultimately came down to. But I think he's a good quarterback. As far as Michael Thomas, I don't want to hear anything Michael Thomas has to say, man. This dude don't toe what he talking about. If you know what I mean,
Right.
that man can't stay on the
Mm-hmm.
field because of that toe. Yeah, he always had injury problems, man, and he can't put that on Derek Carr because that dude was injury prone before Derek Carr got there. I know he was upset with the pass to
Mm-hmm.
Olave, but that's just the way it is, man. That's just the way I always say the ball bounces or the way it goes on certain. He didn't have that guy. He didn't lay the guy out like that. He didn't set him up. He didn't mean to do that. It's just the way the ball is. That's the way the ball was thrown. But yeah. So I have a problem with Michael Thomas getting on Twitter. I think he was on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, calling Derek Carr out in that situation, man, especially with everything
Mm-hmm.
going on, man. So yeah, I definitely have a problem with Michael Thomas there.
and that's what I was going to ask you, K Walk, because I when Britt you were texting about, I went back and watched the play several times, and I was like, am I missing something? Because to me, it didn't look like an egregious throw.
Yeah,
Like sometimes you'll see a throw and you're like, oh, why would he put his guy in
yeah,
that situation? Now it was a bad throw. Like
real
he
bad. Yeah,
threw it high,
yeah,
so Olave didn't have time to like sort of get down. But I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I see that throw every week in the
yeah, dude.
NFL. But if
Yeah.
if you throw it a little bit lower, the guy has a chance to catch it and then get down before the safety tries to
Yeah.
take his head off. So I was going to ask you, K Walk, like, was that a setup? Because to me, it looked like something we see all the time, but because the throw was high, Olave just didn't have a chance to get out of the way.
No, Jay, definitely wasn't a setup. I mean, I remember my second year at Temple, I had the same type of pass, and I went up for it, and the guy hit me. I came down, and I wound up breaking my collarbone. I was out for the season. You're as a receiver, you just automatically just go after where the ball is. If you're a receiver who's hungry for the ball, when you go to tag the ball, that's what you do. But unfortunately, either the ball got away from him, or he
Mm-hmm.
read the defense a certain way, and he tried to get him out of it definitely was a setup. Whatever it was not a setup
Yeah,
in
I
my
didn't see it
opinion.
that way.
Jay, so what are your thoughts about Derek Carr and him being, considered, because he is considered, maybe a top 10, I guess, quarterback in the league by a lot of people, um, primarily, different analysts or NFL guys throughout
Yeah.
the league. But lately it just feels like when you watch him play, it to me, it just I don't get that same confidence. And maybe that is due to the injuries of his players. I'm not sure, but I kind of felt that way since I think it was week 3 or week 4 when they went up against the Eagles. Um, do you feel he is one of those top 10? What I mean is top 10 NFL quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, no, but like similar to K Walk, like I've never had him in that space.
Hmm.
Like if you want to, if I could, you could probably make a case for him somewhere between 10 and 15, probably. Like
Hmm.
I've always looked at him as like a middle of the pack guy. Now I do think he's talented. I think he
Right.
has a very talented arm. I think he can make all the throw, like all that kind of stuff. I do think he has those things. But for whatever reason, whether it's team, whether it's coaching, whether he just hasn't been able to put it together, I don't think the way that he's played has ever really maybe matched his potential. So for me,
Mhm.
Britt, he's exactly who I thought he was. Just like your average middle of the pack NFL quarterback, very talented, but just hasn't put it all together. So that's kind of how I've always seen him.
So if the in this NFL draft, I can't think of what their record is, but I think they have less than I believe 4 games wins. I do believe.
Two. I think they're
Um,
2-5. Two
so
and
that
five.
they're 2-5.
2-5.
So
Yeah.
if they have an opportunity
Or
to
two
get a
and four.
quarterback
Two and
at
four. I'm sorry.
two and
Either
four,
way, go
if
ahead.
they have an
Sorry.
opportunity. No, you're fine. They have an opportunity to get a quarterback in this draft. Would you suggest for them to go ahead and draft a young quarterback? Anybody can take it.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead,
Walt.
Jay. Oh, me. I'm trying to think who's out there right now.
You got
Yeah,
Shador. You've got
yeah.
the
Cam
guy from
Was it
Ward.
Georgia, Beck.
was it Beck?
Yeah, Beck,
Yeah, I'm not sold
Shador.
on Beck though. After Beck looked the
I'm
way
not.
Beck
Well, you
looked,
got my man from Miami too.
that's what I said. Cam Ward. Cam
Cam
Ward.
Ward. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So if you go get Shador
yeah.
Sanders, for instance, if they have the opportunity to go get Shador Sanders, do you think they
I
should go
think
get him?
you, yeah, I think you do, Brett. I
I
think you do
would.
because
Mhm.
Derek Carr is an aging quarterback who's showing that he can't get it done. I mean, he's shown glimpses. I mean, we look at the Atlanta game. I mean, they were in a dogfight in that game. He threw some dimes in that game, but then again, you can't. I don't think you could put a lot of it on him because of the injuries.
Mhm.
But and they signed him to a huge deal as well. I think you do it. Yeah, I think you do it. If depending on who the head coach comes in, the new head coach comes
Right.
in. Who I'm curious to see who that's going to be. If it's an offensive guy or if it's a defensive guy, but I think either way, you want to bring in a future quarterback because whoever they bring in, Derek Carr is not his going to be his guy. That's for sure. So I think yeah, the more and more I think about it, I think you go if you're in a position to get one of those quarterbacks, you definitely do it.
Yeah, I agree. Because I mean, look, whether people like Shador or not, or say what they want about the
He
way
can
off
ball.
the
He can
field,
play.
all that kind of stuff.
He can
Like
play.
Mhm.
most scouts believe, like this guy is a certified top 10 pick, and he's going to be a really good quarterback for a
Mhm.
long time. So if you've got a chance to have a guy maybe to be your franchise for the next decade, I think you got to do it. So I would
Mhm.
absolutely make that pick if it works out that way.
Hey, may need a new quarterback. Shador may need a new head coach. Is it too early for Coach Prime? I'm just kidding. Uh, hey,
Hey, maybe
seem
Hey,
to want to
maybe that's
stick
they
what he's
with
waiting
it.
for.
they
Right.
might
He
be
seem to
they
want
might be
to
thinking ahead. You never know, Britt.
might they might be a package duo like they've been for the last so many since Pee Wee football for
Since
Shador.
he's been born, since he came
Uh,
out the womb.
right, since he came out the womb. All right. All right, guys. Before we get on, because I didn't do this at the beginning of the show, and that's my bad. But Sandy, I just want to say,
Hey,
hey, what's
Sandy.
going on? Thank you
What's
for
up,
always being
Sandy?
on time and watching this every week.
Appreciate you.
My
Appreciate you.
goodness,
So,
I think I'm gonna credit her as our number one, maybe number two fan after my mama. Of course, I said it. That's right, I said it. And then I got to shout out Man Down Sports. Mel, what's going
Mel,
on?
what's up,
What's
Mel?
up,
Appreciate you,
Mel?
Mel
brother.
from Man Down Sports. Please
Appreciate you,
check out
man.
the podcast. I am there most Fridays. I'm there for Man Down. Wait, Man Down Friday panels, whatever it's called. You know what I'm saying? It's
I checked
fun. We
that out the
talk
other night.
a lot of basketball and other sports as well.
Mhm.
And he was with us actually last Thursday to help
Yeah.
us out when Jay was out. So last Tuesday. So check that episode as well. All right, guys, let's get to the Steelers now. I know a lot of people say you guys been talking about the Steelers a lot. Well, they've been a big topic this year, and they have been winning. So when you're a huge topic and you've been winning, we're gonna talk about you. But the Pittsburgh Steelers have acquired wide receiver Mike Williams from the Jets and pass rusher Preston Smith from the Packers. I'm not gonna break it all the how the trades went down. You can find that on Google. But just give me your thoughts on these two acquisitions for the Pittsburgh Steelers
Dude, was Britt
Is
there?
Britt?
K-Walk,
Did
I'm
we
coming
lose
first.
Britt? Oh, you back.
Oh, yeah, Brett, you froze up a
We
little
didn't
bit.
hear the rest of your
I'm back. I
question,
went
Britt.
out.
You went out at
Yeah,
acquisition.
Oh, I went out.
Yeah, I didn't hear
yeah,
anything after that.
yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know I froze. Okay, glad I wasn't picking a booger or nothing like that, and I froze. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But no. So they acquired wide receiver Mike Williams from the Jets and pass rusher Preston Smith from the Packers. How does these two acquisitions impact the team? Okay, welcome. I'm gonna start with you first.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. If I didn't say love it, ladies and gentlemen, I love it. Because I'm here to tell you why I love it. Because Mike Williams is a guy that was thrown under the bus a few weeks back, with that loss, saying he ran the wrong route. So obviously, he was another guy that was made the scapegoat. you know, he took some time off, personal reasons, things of that nature. And then I think the day after that, Devontae Adams was immediately traded for. So I'm glad he's got out of that show, if you will. I'll keep it PG rated, that show, and got into went to an organization who's all about winning. And with the head coach and Mike Tomlin, who I absolutely love as a head coach, nothing but a winner. And 16, 17 seasons, 18 seasons, however long it's been. I think the worst he's finished is 8-8. So a guy that knows how to win, is all about winning. Brought him in, and a much needed receiver, complimentary receiver to George Pickens, and bringing in Smith as well to add on to that defense, which I already thought was pretty decent, to be honest with you. So that just made him a lot better. So I like this move. Arthur Smith has been looking really good in his play calling. Russell Wilson, man, I owe you an apology, brother. I owe you an apology, brother. I'm telling you right now. Did not see this coming. Did not see. I mean, you still got it, brother. You still got it. So I'm on air. I'm live telling you I apologize to you, brother. Did not know you could do it like. Did not know you had it like that, papi. But yeah, I think it's a really good trade all around for the Steelers. I love it. I love it. I love it. Absolutely love it. I think they could go far with this trade.
Do I get one or nah? I'm asking for too much.
What's that?
Do I get an apology? I'm asking for too much. I'm on.
Yeah, no. If I disagree with you, but whoever disagree with me, I apologize. I apologize.
All right, I'll take that. No, yeah, I love it too. I kept asking for it last week. I know I said this. K-Walk, you were there. I said the Steelers need another wide receiver. They went out and got that other wide receiver. I think Mike Williams, I still think he is a very good wide receiver when healthy. His issue has been health for I don't know how, basically since he's been in the league. But we've seen in the Jets, their last game, he made a couple nice catches. So he has that ability. He just has to stay healthy. He has to be comfortable with the offense. I'm expecting there's going to be some struggles in the beginning because it's a new offense. He has to adapt to Russ. Russ is going to have to get used to him. They have to gain that trust together. But I love this. This takes pressure off of George Pickens because he's also such an incredible wide receiver as well. And Preston Smith, the pass rusher. I didn't think they needed any more defensive line help. But the fact that they went out and they got someone else who can contribute right away, a veteran pass rusher who could contribute to go with TJ Watt and along with a couple other guys. To me, TJ Watt is just unstoppable. The only person that slows down TJ Watt is TJ Watt. And maybe some stupid flags that are unnecessary. But the fact they went out and got him, this defense to me is already scary. So you just add another. I'm not saying he's on Zadarius Smith type level of a pass rusher, but they didn't need that because their pass rush was just great as is. But you add some production still. I think this makes them even more scary. So I absolutely love the move as well. Both moves. Jay, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, like you guys, I'm excited about Mike Williams. I think that was a great move. K Walk, you said great compliment to Pickens, and to K Walk, like the point you made about Tomlin. Like I think Tomlin might be the perfect guy for him because we know he's a talented receiver, but for whatever reason, Britt, you said it, injuries or just just
Mhm.
maybe not living up to the billing. But I think if anyone can kind of get him to reach what I think he's capable of being, I think Tomlin might be the perfect guy. So this could be the perfect situation for him. And then Preston Smith, I agree, Britt. Not that they needed it, but it's a great insurance
Yeah,
policy,
for
right?
sure.
We know
Mhm.
the NFL season is long, and at some point, guys are going to get banged up, right? So if you can have another guy that can get after the quarterback, obviously it's only going to help you. So I think these two great moves by the Steelers, and this is going to be a team to contend with down the
Mhm.
stretch for sure.
Jay, did we get an apology from you to Russ?
No, because I was never I was kind of like I would give Russ a shot and see what I wasn't on Russ as
Yeah, for
hard as
sure.
K Walk was. K
Nah,
Walk
no, I don't
was the
think
one that
anyone
was
was. I
All
don't think
right, all
anyone
right,
was.
all
yeah,
right.
I
I,
wasn't too hard on Russ. I said maybe let's see what Russ has left.
Mhm.
all right. Okay, that's my mistake. Then that's my mistake.
It's all on you.
Real quick,
All on you.
guys, before we move on. Thoughts. It's a tight race in an AFC North with the Ravens. I believe the Steelers are in first as of right now, 1 and 2. Are the Steelers the favorites in the AFC North? Anybody could take it.
Ooh. To me, I probably would still have the Ravens as the favorite. I know they're six and
Hmm.
three, Pittsburgh 6-2. But I think if you asked me, like if they went head to head today, right now, I would probably feel more comfortable picking the Ravens to win that game. So I'm
Hmm.
going to say I still like the Ravens, Britt, but Pittsburgh's going to be right there. They're going to be right there.
Okay, what?
Yeah, I agree. I think they're I think they're just have a lead by half a game because of the bye week or what have
Hmm.
you. But I still like the Ravens. I think the Ravens are one of my favorite team to come out of the AFC right now. I know it's early, but we mentioned the Chiefs, and they're just not looking, like the Chiefs. And I think if any team is not, if it's not the Chiefs in AFC, you have to point at the Ravens. I know they have 3 losses, and but still, I think when it comes down to it, and the additions that they made with Derrick Henry, bringing in some of those guys, I think they just made a trade too. I don't want to jump the gun, but they made it
We're not.
a
We can
small
talk about
trade.
it.
Yeah, it was the corner from who did they
Is it
Tre'Davious
Tre'Davious White? Tre-
White for I forget where they got
Tre-
it from the Ram. Was it the Rams?
was
No,
the
where did they
Rams
get
or
it
the
from?
Bills? One of them.
Oh yeah, one of them. But I think that was just a move that's to make just to have depth on their squad,
Hmm.
which they need. They didn't need it, but I think it helped. Like Jay mentioned, it's an insurance policy. But I still like the Ravens. But like any given Sunday, we've seen that in the last couple Sundays. So let's
Yeah.
see what happens. But I do have the Ravens right now, slight edge winning the North.
The thing about the Ravens that's interesting to me is like when they're playing their best football, I like they're really hard to
Yeah,
beat. But
yeah,
sometimes
the
something's
pace.
off
Yeah,
sometimes, and
Hmm.
that's that they're sitting there with 3 losses, but then you see them come out weeks and just absolutely dominate a team.
yeah,
So I just think sometimes like, okay, which one of these Ravens teams is going to show up this week? Because if you get their
yeah.
A game, they're going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, I'm a go slightly the other way, and I
Okay.
love Ravens. I love Lamar Jackson, but that's one of the biggest issues that I have. Sometimes their consistency from game to game, they just don't show up some days, and I'm like, you can't show up. You can't have that issue where you don't show up against the Steelers because that defense is stout. And that offense is progressing. They're getting better and they're getting better fast. And they have a lot of talent on the offensive side, a lot of young talent. Um, and if anyone I think can slow up, not completely stop, but slow up that Ravens offense, it would be that Steelers defense. That is a fantastic defense. So they can't have one of those lapses, those games where you're like, we'll come part-time today. You can't do that to me, in my opinion, against the Steelers. So the Steelers, I wouldn't be surprised. I guess that means time to move on to the next topic. But I wouldn't be
No, I love
surprised
that. I love that.
to
I thought I'd turn that
I
on.
wouldn't be surprised to take the to take to take the first place. So I'm really excited to see those that next Steelers Baltimore matchup. I'm definitely that better be a prime time game. If they don't, they better move that to a prime time game because this is big. This one's gonna be big. All right,
They
guys, let's
started to
move
flex
on.
games now, so
Uh,
I wouldn't be surprised if it is. They started to
yeah.
flex games now. So.
Right. Let's move on to the next one because I have a couple more topics I gotta get through before I pass it on. Dallas Cowboys. I can't come to Jay no more because he has changed his allegiance to the Atlanta Falcons. He's seen that shit sinking quick and jumped off. He was not the captain to go down with that shit. But the Dallas Cowboys made a trade, guys. Can we get it? Can I get that ding sound, that drum sound, that cheers, something? But they made a trade for wide receiver Jonathan Mingo in a 2025 seventh round pick. The Panthers get a 2025 fourth round pick. What are your thoughts on this trade? Jay, I'm gonna come to you first.
Look, I think it's an okay trade. I mean, I think it's kind of, honestly, for me, it's one of those, okay, like, who cares really? I mean, the Cowboys are an absolute mess. Um, Dak being out for the next several weeks isn't going to help. You go get a receiver, okay. It feels like too little, too late, in my opinion. You had opportunities to do things in the offseason. You had some other opportunities earlier in this season to maybe make some moves. Now, sort of at the final hour, you go and you bring a guy in. I don't think he's going to have a tremendous impact, but I think he's an okay guy to have. Apparently, they were really high on this kid. Who is it? What's his name again? Wingo? No, what's his
Mingo,
Mingo.
Mingo.
They're really high on him coming out
Well,
of
that tells you a lot.
college. It's been a few years, so this is a guy they were interested in bringing back, but it's just going to be a shrug your shoulders type of deal, Britt. He's not going to make an impact, and the Cowboys, their season is over, so it really doesn't matter.
So, K-Walk, a lot of people have been talking and may have made a valid point that they went and traded Jonathan Mingo for a 2025 fourth round pick. And they could have got DeAndre Hopkins for a fifth round pick. They could have gotten was it Mike Williams today for a fifth round pick. So what are your thoughts on this trade?
Dumb. Look, I don't understand why he made this move. Look, I got a segment on our show called Knuckleheads of the Week, ladies and gentlemen. And Gerald Wayne Jones is my Knucklehead of the Week. Why would you make this move? A fourth round pick for a Mingo? No, you're not playing for anything. You're not playing for anything. Dak Prescott is going to be on IR, so he's going to miss at least 4 weeks. So what are you playing for? Why are you making moves in the middle of the season when you have no quarterback, when you have no defense, when you have no running backs? You're making, now you want to make trades. Now you want to bring guys in here in the middle of the season when the season is completely gone, but you didn't do anything in the offseason coming into it. What sense does that make, Jerry? Make it make sense, Jerry. Look, Jerry's obviously playing to the beat of his own drum. We know that. It's his drum, it's his band. We get all that. We get all that. His instruments, he brings them in. But this makes absolutely zero sense because you're in a rebuilding mode. That fourth round pick is a valuable pick. Is a valuable pick for next in the off season. Makes zero sense to me, Jerry. Explain this to me. Other than it's your team and you feel confident, stop it, Jerry. Stop it. If Jason Collins, no slight to Jason Collins, can recognize a sinking ship and he's not even on it, brother, you're the captain of this thing. I know you got to go down with the ship, bro. You got to go down with the ship. Leave that fourth round pick. Keep it in your bag, man. Save it for the off season. And bring someone else in there who's not worthy to be in there. But to make this move right now with Dak out, it makes zero sense, man. You should have made this move, like Britt said, a long time ago for a different receiver at a lot less price. So it makes zero sense to me. So just dumb to me. Just completely dumb.
When I heard about the trade, I was confused because I said you had so many opportunities to get someone who can contribute now. I'm not saying he can contribute now, but I don't. This young man, what has he done? And I know he's been sitting on the Panthers. I know the Panthers, it's hard to contribute on with them, but I have not heard this young man's name in forever. I think they say he has like 200 and something yards, or maybe it's 20 something receptions with 100 and something yards. I had to look up the stats exactly. What are you looking to do now? Was this a desperate situation? Because I do know CeeDee Lamb did hurt his shoulder. Is this saying we need a receiver now? But at this point in time, it's just like, okay, our quarterbacks, like K-Walk said, quarterbacks going on IR. Our veteran running back doesn't want to show up to meetings. We don't have a whole lot. The offensive line, like we're just not clicking right now. I don't know why he decided to make this move. I have no idea. Jerry Jones makes no sense. But in that way, I'm going to say thank you, Jerry, because you are giving every person out here that can't stand the Dallas Cowboys and their fans everything that we all wanted. So thank you so much. We greatly appreciate you for this. And I hope you continue to do this for the next 10 to 20, make it 20 to 30 years. I would greatly appreciate it. You and then your son, God willing, if you last that long. But if not, you're going to pass it down to your son. So hopefully, Stephen continues the same tradition, the new tradition of the Dallas Cowboys for the last 30 or so years, and that's losing every single year. I like that tradition for y'all. But anyway, guys, is it time to blow it up for the Dallas Cowboys? Is it time to blow it up for the Dallas Cowboys? Or let's just wait a little bit longer? Jay, I'm gonna come to you first.
It's hard, Britt, because when we talk about blowing it up, you feel like you've got some pieces, but it's just not like what are they going to blow up? Like if they blow it up, what is there really to blow up? Is my question. You
Ashes.
can't really move off of Dak. He just signed that deal, so I mean, are you really getting rid of Dak? I don't see that happening, and I don't think you can move off a CD. I mean, he's like the one really good player. I mean, so I feel like it's more of a rebuild than a blow up, Brit, because I just don't know that they really. I mean, it's already blown up, to be honest. So I feel like at this point, it's a rebuild.
So Jay, let me ask you a question. So they paid Trayvon Diggs, right? They paid at one point. I think he was the highest paid corner in the league at one point. Like you mentioned, they made Dak the highest paid corner in the league at one point in time for a short time. I think CD Lamb was up there with top four, top three money and receivers, of course. Um, do you move on from Michael Parsons, or do you try everything you can to pay him?
That's a great question. That's a great question, Britt, because I mean, obviously, look, Micah Parsons is a very, very good player, but and I hate to say this about another Penn State guy, but there's just something about him that it just kind of rubs me the wrong way, Britt. And I don't know if he's a great leader. I don't know if he's a great locker room guy. His production on the field is good at times, but then there are weeks where he completely disappears. Look, I know if he goes on the market, there's going to be a ton of teams that are just ready and willing to swoop him up. So I'm not saying move off of him, but it's going to be a super high price tag. And if you pay him, are you really going to be able to build the kind of team that you want to build? So, but I hate to say this, but I think if you're going to rebuild, you might have to let him walk out the door just to have some money to bring in a bunch of good players instead of
Mm-hmm.
paying one great player. So they might have to do it, Britt. That sounds crazy, but they might have to do it.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting. I kind of I agree with you, Jay. I don't know how they're going to pay um Michael Parsons. I have to look at their cap space within the next so many years. I know they don't have to pay him this year, of course, but going into this off season or next year, going into next off season, he's gonna want his money because then he's entering in, I think that 5th year option because he was a first round draft pick. Or you're gonna have to trade him. I know there was people thinking that maybe they'll trade him and get a big haul back for him, where you get maybe a first round pick, maybe a couple second or third round picks for him, and that could bring in a lot of young talent that could really help
Yeah.
jumpstart this rebuild. That's not a bad option. Um, it is going to be interesting because as talented as Michael Parson is, he can be a headache when it comes to just being out in public and voicing his opinion a little bit too much. A lot of locker rooms are not going to like that very much so. He's in Dallas where he could get away with a lot of this stuff. We said it before, Dallas, they enjoy the circus, they enjoy the media. They like all the attention, and that's what helped to create this whole their the highest value franchise in the NFL, actually across any professional sporting leagues in America. I don't know about the world, but definitely for sure in America. So they welcome this type of stuff. They welcome his commentary. We can't stand it in other cities. Philadelphia, we don't want our players doing it. I know San Francisco, they don't want their players doing it. You could talk, but not as much as he talks. He talks too much. Um, so I'm trying to figure out what team is going to be a team that's going to be okay with it, I guess, or maybe they'll just have a conversation when they're doing contract negotiations, like, hey, just tell her this back a little bit. But my concern is he's still, as great as he is in pass rushing, he still has a big question mark when it comes to rushing. So Marcus Hicks says, nah, we keep Parsons, don't do that. Marcus, do y'all have the money? Is the question. That's he wants to get paid, and he has voiced his he voiced it. He said it loud and clear. I want to get paid. Maybe not this year, but for sure next year. But K Rock, what are your thoughts on? I guess the Cowboys blowing it up, rebuilding. You know what we just said.
Yeah, I don't think you blow it up. I just think you let it just
Mhm.
fall down and or on its own. So I think that's what it looks looking like at this point. It's inevitable that's going to happen. But I'm sorry, Marcus, but I have to disagree with you there. I think you have to get rid of Parsons. I think you have to. Um, I don't want, and again, like Jay said, I don't think blow it up is kind of a hard term to use,
Mhm.
but I think you have to go out there and get some pieces for the future. I think Micah Parsons helps that. Helps you getting those trades that you alluded to, Britt, bringing in maybe a second round guy, a second round pick, or a fourth round pick, or fifth round pick, whatever it is. I don't think you care about where he goes. Let that be somebody else's headache, someone else's headaches. It's all about what can you get back for him. That's
Right.
going to help this team in the future. And again, it goes back to the Mingo trade. You should have held on to that fourth round pick, but you still got to pay him that franchise tag, though. Marcus, I get where you're going there. But I think that you have to use him for guys that you don't have to pay. You go out there and you get for again, and you can use those trades. Whatever you get from for Parsons, you can use those trades, parlay those into a higher higher trades or what have you, or go get another player or whatever you want to do with that. But I think you stockpile as many high picks as you possibly
Mhm.
can, and that way you can build around what you currently have, and you don't have to worry about paying them right now and continue to do that, or reconstruct some of these deals with Dak, with Diggs, with I know CD just got paid, so CD's probably not going to come off of his money just yet. But I think Zach Martin also has a big contract as well. But I think that's what you have to do. You're going to have to use one of these pieces to get some draft capital in here and
Mhm.
start to rebuild. I use that term rebuild, not so much blow it up, but rebuild, if you will.
And K Walk, I think that's what a smart, innovative GM would do, as we've seen some other
Mhm.
teams around the league be
Hmm.
able to pull some things off and rebuild quickly. I just think Jerry Jones, his
Yeah, exactly.
stubbornness,
That's the problem.
his thinking that he's got all, like, I just don't see him doing it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I think if there was someone else in that position, they could probably be innovative, get creative, move
Mhm.
some pieces around, and maybe get the thing back on the track. But I just think as long as Jerry Jones is sitting in that seat,
No,
it's
I
going to
agree.
be
I agree.
really, really difficult if you're a
I agree.
Cowboys fan.
Yeah, and real quick, guys, because I know we got to move on to the next topic. But Dak's comments, I know you guys seen his comment on the sideline,
Spot on.
and
Spot on.
he said it very clear. We freaking changing the word. We freaking suck. How do you guys feel about that? As him being the leader of this team, understanding he's going to get caught. He's on TV. He's going to get caught. There's always cameras watching you. How do you feel about him saying that anybody can take it?
I actually wasn't bothered by it, Britt. It's like one of
Mhm.
those in the moment emotional things. This was
Yeah.
after he hurt the hamstring, right? And he's on the
Exactly.
sideline. So a
Mhm.
lot going on. I'm okay with him saying it. He's just making an
Mhm.
observation about what is
Exactly.
actually going on.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I
Right.
know there's probably people going to say, look, he's a leader, but listen, it's just that's real life. I know these guys get in front of the camera and they say all the right things, but what's being said on the sideline and in the locker room is completely different than what these guys say when they're in front of a microphone. So I didn't have a problem with it. I'm okay
Mhm.
with it. It was an emotional, in the moment reaction, and it's true. So he wasn't saying anything that's not true.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, I agree. That look, he didn't say you suck. He said we. So he put
Hmm.
himself in it as
Yep.
well. So look, to me, that's part of being a leader. Sometimes you gotta just say what the truth is and take accountability. And I think he did all that by saying the word we. If he would
Yeah.
have said something else like this defense sucks
Yeah.
or who was the quarterback at the time? I can't think of who the
Cooper
quarterback
Rush.
was.
Cooper
Cooper
Rush.
Rush sucks, then we'll probably have another conversation. But I didn't have a problem with it. That I agree with Jay. It's frustrating in the moment. You get you get excited for games. You want the team to come out and play their best, but everybody was frustrated. Mike McCarthy slammed down his tablet. You seen Trayvon Diggs in the middle of a play throwing his hands up.
Yeah.
Trying to get that might be a different situation, but trying to get a call that just wasn't there. So
Yeah.
he spoke the honest truth, and at that time they did suck, or they do suck, is what I like to say.
Mhm.
Is that a pause moment? Pause. K Walk, your thoughts.
Right, you be thinking about stuff I didn't be thinking about, but no, I mean, I think yeah, I like what he said. I mean, I don't like what he said, but I don't have a
Hmm.
problem with him saying what he said. It's kind of like the Eminem and 8 Mile at the end of the rap battle where he said, "Well, they're going to talk about you, living at home with your mom and this and that." So he got ahead of that. So he said, "Listen, I'm gonna say it before anybody else says it." So I
Yeah.
know he wasn't thinking about that, but that's how I'm going to look at it. I'm gonna say, okay, we suck. So yeah, what are you going to say? We suck. I already said that. Well, I agree. So what else you got? But no, I have no problem with it. I mean, that's just what
Hmm.
it is, man. It's he's just a spade calling a spade. Him calling a spade. Um, and it's frustrating. I know it can be frustrating, especially with Dak. And Dak's like, they just paid me $60 million. Now I'm out with this hamstring. Then it
Hmm.
comes out to be worse than they thought. We're not winning. CD's, nursing that shoulder. He's trying to give it everything he got, man. So just hats off to him first and foremost for going out there. Man, listen, I'm a competitor, but yeah, I have no problem with him doing it. He knew that there are cameras everywhere. He probably was mic'd up. Man, I wouldn't be surprised if he was mic'd up, but he knows that there are cameras everywhere, and whatever you say and whatever
Right.
you do, it's going. Someone's going to find it. So I have no problem with it whatsoever.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting after this season. It seems like Travis Hunter may actually be a Cowboy. I don't know if he wants to be, but it's a possibility that he could potentially be. I know that's where Coach Deion Sanders wanted his one of the places he wanted his
These guys
two
are
boys
starting to
to go
bug me.
to.
They're really
Uh,
starting to bug me, trying to dictate
hey,
everything.
they play right in their hands though. It's goes
Like,
playing right into their hands. Well, actually, Travis said he wanted to stay in Colorado, so that sounds like Denver is where he wants to be. I don't know if that's where he will end up though. Um, but let's move on. I got a one more topic to talk about here, and then we can head into break, and then Jake can take over for the last couple topics that we have. We got to talk about the NBA and what's going on with the NBA. The NBA has officially started. Yes, guys, we do talk about NBA. We talk about college basketball, college football. We literally talk about everything on here. Um, and we got to talk about the breaking news that occurred today. And that is with Philadelphia 76ers center Joel Embiid getting suspended. It came out that he's going to gets suspended for 3 games for shoving Philadelphia Inquirer columnist Marcus Hayes for mentioning his deceased brother and his son. Um, I guess, do you think what are your thoughts on a decision that was made and the overall situation? For those who don't know about the situation, real quick,
please.
Marcus Hayes is a columnist, like I just mentioned. He wrote, he spoke about, he was talking about Joel Embiid, but in mentioning Joel Embiid, not in necessarily the most positive way. He mentioned Arthur, which is his deceased brother, and his son, who is also named Arthur. Joel named his son after his deceased brother.
Mhm.
Um, and Joel Embiid didn't take a liking to it. But so, what are your thoughts about this overall situation? Jay, I'm gonna come to you first.
So here's look, I understand why he got suspended, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
obviously, if you're just going by the letter of the law, you can't put your hands on anybody. You can't put your hands on a reporter. So fine. If you want to suspend him, that's fine. But the other side of this thing is some of these reporters are just getting out of hand and they're just
Mm-hmm.
taking stuff too far. And why, if you want to write an article about basketball and whether or not you think my injury, like, fine, do that as much as you want. But if you want to bring up my deceased brother, like, what does that have to do with anything other than you making it real personal? So if you're going
Mm-hmm.
to make it personal, then I'm going to respond in the way that I want to respond, right? So look, I can't tell you that if I was in a similar situation that I wouldn't have reacted the same way that Embiid did. And the guy, look,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, the guy might be lucky. He might have got off easy because had
Mm-hmm.
Embiid really wanted to get after him, he could have. So look, I'm not sitting here saying like you should start punching people every time they say something
Mhm.
about you or pushing them, whatever. But I think these reporters have to know the line. And it just seems like
Mm-hmm.
lately they're people are just stepping over the line of what's acceptable. And I'm okay with these athletes saying, "Hey, if you want to make it personal, then you're gonna have to deal with whatever I think an appropriate consequence is." So I'm not mad at Embiid for what he did, but I also understand why the NBA felt like they needed to step in and suspend him.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jay. When I heard about the situation, I was like, oh boy. Everything, it's been a lot going on with Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers. Here we go again. Um, but it's understandable. I feel like there was at one point in time the media wouldn't cross these boundaries. There was a line drawn. You could
Yeah,
talk about me, you could talk about how um how my play is on the field or on the court. You could talk about me if I don't show up, whatever it might be, my injuries. But there's no need to ever mention anybody's family. He could have made his point. uh he could have made his he may have made some very valid points at that,
right.
but to me it just got lost in it when you
Yeah,
mentioned Joel Embiid's little brother, who he was very close with, by the
yeah,
way, very very close with. I mean, you could tell he named his son after him, and then his son. So I don't condone violence, but every so often, people cross that line and it
yeah.
gets you like, hey,
Mhm.
you testing me right now. You're really testing me. There was no need for you to bring them up in any situation. And Marcus Hayes is known for these unnecessary uh, uh, uh,
Yeah.
reports. Columns, I guess you could say, in
Mhm.
the Philadelphia Inquirer. He writes these disgusting um, reports all the time, and it's frustrating. And what's really frustrating is that I have not heard if he's going to get punished for this. Right now, it's been said that he will not, which to me, that I'm looking at the Philadelphia Inquirer side eye, like, so you're allowing this behavior. This is
Right.
not okay behavior whatsoever. So, and Joel Embiid probably he found that out as well and said, you know what, I'm gonna take it into my own hands. But the thing about this, he has some real. Can I say this? I'm gonna say it anyway. He has some real balls because Joel Embiid said it in a press conference. Marcus Hayes is not here today, but when I see him, I'm going to have a conversation with him. And then you show up in the locker room and you thought this man forgot. We got to stop. Be more respectful of these people, because if that was vice versa, Marcus Hayes would not appreciate that whatsoever. He wouldn't like it. So just stay away from people's families. If you want to talk about the player and how their play is on the court or on the field, that's fine. That's your job. But to cross that line to make a point that didn't need to go that way, stay away from that. But K Rock, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said, and when you talk about the media, we talk about it all the time. These guys know, they live for that. They live to
Mm-hmm.
to go for that breaking point, if you will. We saw it with Dion, some time back, a while back, where he
Mm-hmm.
had to excuse or exile, if you will, and one of the reporters who came in there because he was so disrespectful or he wasn't focused on on his job. And these guys are communists, and then they want to what they want to do is they want to get as much attention, to bring so much attention to themselves, and they'll write about anything to get those followers, to get those eyes, or those reads, if you will, whatever the case
Mm-hmm.
may be at this at this point. But yeah, I mean, I listen, I'm not advocating for violence by any stretch of the imagination, but sometimes we all know that everyone, not just men, not
Mm-hmm.
just women, everyone has a breaking point, and
Yep.
at some point you're going to reach that. And if you want to continue to go after, if you want to see if you can test those, see if you can get to that breaking point, that breaking point may include you getting your neck broke, so be careful what be careful what you ask for, just to get
Right.
just
Mhm.
to get a view or a follower or what have you. But my thing is, the next thing I'm looking for is if this guy is going to try to sue NB, because you know
Yeah.
how these guys get down.
Yep.
Mhm.
Next thing we're going to hear, oh yeah, we're going to, what's his name,
Hayes.
Hey.
Hayes, Marcus
Mhm.
Hayes. Next thing we're hearing, Marcus Hayes files civil suit against Joel Embiid for
Right.
whatever number there. You can throw a number out there. But yeah, that's just what these guys do, man. They just try to bring so much attention to themselves by doing
Mhm.
scandalous stuff like this. So again, not advocating for Joel Embiid's action by any stretch of the imagination, ladies and gentlemen. But I understand.
I
But I
understand.
definitely
Yep.
understand.
And Britt, you made a
Right.
good point
Go ahead.
because you're right. Like there used to be more respect from
Mhm.
reporters to the athletes. But now I and K Walk, to your point, with everyone just trying to go viral all the time,
Yep.
guys are willing to be more risky, willing to cross those
Mhm.
lines because everyone just wants to be viral. But I think sometimes too people forget because you see these athletes as superhuman. You forget that they're people just like
Yeah.
everyone else, and they
Right.
have emotions too, especially when you strike a chord like that,
Mhm.
Yeah.
deceased brother, your
Come on
child.
now. Come on now.
There's just some areas you just can't touch. So,
Yeah. It's not like
like
you
K
miss a
Walk said,
shot. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead. Go
not
ahead.
saying you should do it, but I
Yeah.
understand. I
It's
understand.
not like, yeah,
Right.
exactly. Go ahead, bro. Sorry.
Yeah, I think yeah, I just lost my point. Wow, that was crazy. Uh but I think that the 3 game suspension in particular, that was something the NBA had to do. They
Yeah.
have to show face. They I seen the comment that they came out with, they understand, the reporter mentioned something about Joel Embiid that was personal to him. But it is in their guidelines if you touch a media
Yeah.
personnel that you can get suspended. So I think that's just to show face. I feel like a lot of guys up there, they probably didn't even want to suspend him, but they had to suspend him. He actually got less time than I thought. I thought maybe he would get 5 games, but he got 3, which was to
Okay.
me
Facts,
that's
Marcus.
not bad. So yeah, Marcus Hicks says you can't speak on my family,
Facts.
period.
Facts.
And that's how a lot of people are. So um I think the 76ers also apologized to Marcus Hayes. I kind of don't like that though. I understand you're trying to be professional in a way. I don't like that whatsoever because I think Marcus Hayes needs to apologize to Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I don't like
And I
that.
want to say this one thing about Philadelphia media because I think Philadelphia fans also get a bad rep because of the Philadelphia media. Philadelphia media, they have a lot of people, first of all, who are not from Philadelphia who are similar to Marcus Hayes, and they say a lot of crap on behalf of us, but that's not what the fan base is really feeling or thinking at that particular time. It's just that they have a louder voice than we have because of the platform that they're utilizing. And I come at the Philadelphia media all the time. Come to Philadelphia, guys. Like you can ask anybody, any of the fans, do they like the Philadelphia, anybody in the Philadelphia media? They have respect for some people, but the majority of them we cannot stand. We don't like them. They do not speak for us, and it's unfortunate because the national media takes only listens to what the Philadelphia media has to say versus really listening to the fan base, and that could be frustrating. And here's one of these situations. But I will say in this situation. I give a lot of people in the Philadelphia media credit because they have been standing up for Joel Embiid versus Marcus Hayes, which I can appreciate in this one instance. Now, going forward, I'm gonna go back to not liking them again. But in the meantime, we are unified.
But Britt,
Hey, go ahead, Jay.
oh, go ahead,
Sorry.
K Walk.
No, I was just going to say, I had a run in with, back in the day with the guy from the Philadelphia Inquirer. I told the story on
Yeah.
Prince's show, but I wasn't going to get into that. But basically, I was just going to say, hey, Joel Embiid, look at it this way. You're probably not going to get paid. Hey, listen, you get 3 more days off. You get 3 more games off. Look at that.
That
Look at
is
it that way.
true.
I was
You're not
gonna
From
forced
the
to
say
come back.
hill.
that
From
I
the
was
hill.
surprised, Britt, that the Sixers came out and apologized.
Yeah, that
Me
I was
too.
hoping that they were going to make it really difficult for this guy the
Mhm.
rest of the season. Like no one speak to him. Don't
yeah,
let him in the locker room. Like
Right.
to me, that's the stance that I was hoping the Sixers would take. Like this
Mhm.
guy's not getting another interview. Everyone on the team is like, we're not going to talk to this guy. don't allow him in the locker room. I was hoping they would have made it really difficult. To me, that would have been a more appropriate measure than to apologize. I get it because they probably are thinking maybe they could get sued too. So maybe they're just trying to save face. But I was hoping they'd make it extremely hard on this guy the rest of the year.
Hey Jay, they broke a cardinal Godfather rule: never go against the family. So they got to stick up for Joel Embiid here.
Yeah.
You never go against the family.
I'm thinking that he may not be allowed in the locker room anymore. I'm thinking they will make it difficult, but to save face and to follow what the NBA has done, because look, the Sixers have been getting in trouble a lot with Adam Silver in the NBA, so they're trying to save face with him and then everybody else. So, but I think they are going to. I'm not sure. They have not said anything. They may not say anything. I'm not sure. But I'm thinking because they have a lot of respect for Joel Embiid, they just gave him another contract, guys. They really did. That they will say, you know what, you can no longer come in our locker room. But I don't think it's going to be announced whatsoever. I just don't. I don't think so. So, all right, guys. Any final thoughts on this Joel Hans Embiid thing? I don't know if Hans is really his middle name. I just like saying Hans in there. It flows well. Right. But next week, I didn't get to a couple of our topics, but we'll push that off to next week, and that'll be like our halfway point for NFL MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year. So our mid-season NFL awards, and then we'll do more of the week 10, since it'll be week 10 this weekend, of our winners and losers, since we weren't able to get it done this week. But stay tuned, do not go anywhere. We will be right back. Please, again, subscribe, like, and share our YouTube channel at The Sideline Speaks. We are also on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Sideline Speaks, and anywhere you get your podcasts or anywhere you can listen to your podcasts. So we would greatly appreciate it. Again, we are slowly but surely growing. And we love when we get to talk to you guys. Hopefully soon we'll be able to take some phone calls. I'm working on trying to get that together as soon as possible. But yes, we will be right back. Do not go anywhere. It's going to take like a 30-second break so I can clear my voice up. My throat's getting a little scratchy. I'm not going to lie. But stay tuned. You guys are watching The Sideline Speaks with myself, Brittany Jones, alongside Jason Collins and Kevin Walker. Again, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Okay. Hello, this is Marvin Lewis, and you're watching The Sideline Speaks with Brittany Jones, Jason Collins, and Kevin Walker. They're taking a break, and they will be right back.
Welcome back to The Sideline Speaks. Brittany Jones, Kevin Walker, and Jason Collins. Guys, let's jump a little bit into some college sports here in our last half an hour or so. College football rankings came out tonight, so we're going to get into that in a few minutes. But first, I think we need to make a little pit stop at the biggest game from the college football weekend. My Penn State Nittany Lions going up against Brittany's Ohio State Buckeyes. I really thought this was going to be the weekend that my Nittany Lions got over the hump and beat Ohio State. It did not happen again. Come up a little bit short. But Britt, I'll let you have the floor. What were your thoughts on this game and how you feeling about your Buckeyes?
I was freaking out. I'm not even going to lie to you. I was totally freaking out. Playmakers, I love them. Defense, I think played fantastic. One of the reason why we won a game, Will Howard. I have a lot of question marks about this young man. I do. He's been in college football for a little bit now. I have no idea what his NFL draft stock is looking like. I just feel like he just has some boneheaded decisions. I don't know if it's just me, but I watch him and I just get frustrated and I'm like, we don't have another good quarterback that we could put out there. We have so much talent on this offense. We got one of the top receivers in college football, freshman college football, and Jeremiah Smith. We have a good rushing attack. It's just his decision making is just off to me. And then not with just against Penn State, the one game that they actually lost, just not sliding down a little bit earlier, getting down earlier to be able to clock it to kick a field goal. I'm just not a huge fan of our quarterback, and I just hope that when they get into the playoff rankings, because I'm guaranteed they only lost one game, I'm pretty sure they're going to get in. That he doesn't make a boneheaded decision that's going to cost them the game, because I think he could have cost them this Penn State game or this Penn State Ohio State game. I'm just not a huge fan of him. I'm not.
Yeah, no, Britt, I agree. I think because you're right. I mean, I think they have one of, if not the most talented roster in all of college football. They brought in a bunch of guys in the offseason, and they have an outstanding roster. But the one area where it's a little shaky is at the quarterback position. Now, I thought he played okay on Saturday. He throws a pick six early, but came back and played pretty decent after that. But I do think if you're talking about championship aspirations, is he a guy that can lead you there? I'm not sure about that. But K-Walk, what were your thoughts on the game? I know you watched it. What were your thoughts on this game, man?
Yeah, and I wanted to text in the thread that we have, ladies and gentlemen, along with Nether So Good Sports Radio. But I give the same respect that I ask for. Like, I don't want to, when my team is playing, I don't want anybody bothering me. So I do the same thing. I showed y'all that same courtesy. But yeah, I'm thinking like in the beginning of the game, where is Tyler Warren? In this situation, they did not use him like I thought they would. I thought they were going to come in here. I know they used him early in a quarterback situation where he lined up his quarterback things and that, but they didn't use him as much as I thought they were going to use him. And I think he, in my opinion, is the best player in college football. And I'm not saying at one position. I'm just saying his ability to do so many different things. You
Yeah.
call him a Swiss Army knife or things of that nature. But I think he's one of the best players, if not the best player in the college football. And they didn't use him to his full capability. And I thought that ultimately cost him. But to you guys' point about Howard is that yeah, that pick six. I mean, it just seemed like he just waited too long to throw that ball, and it was a great read by the young man who happens to be right here. He went to high school right here in the town that I.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, Hempstead, New York. So he picked that off for pick six. I wanted to put that in the thread. I was like, all right, I'm not bothered. I don't want to hear that right now. Or maybe he did because it was a pick six. Maybe he did. But nonetheless, yeah. Then he came down with the rush. He was about to go in. Fumbled it out of bounds.
Yeah.
It was just no way you could overturn that. I mean, no view. It looked like it went clearly over the pylon, and then it came back, and it was pretty much even. And that throw to the end zone, that fade route, man, and that you just make a heck. And that was just again, that's the way the ball bounces. I'm telling you, man, that ball bounced right off his chest and his ability to get that 1 foot down, and then and then of course that fourth down play, and then he couldn't make the throw or make the connection there. But overall, a very evenly played game. I agree with both of you as far as Howard. I mean, we've seen him in the Oregon game make some mental mistakes. That slide with no time left. I mean, I don't think he's there. I mean, from the neck up, he's just making some mistakes, crucial mistakes. And you don't want that from your quarterback. You can take that from a lineman, or you can take that from a receiver, running back, but your quarterback has to be spot on especially from the shoulders up. And does he get it right? I think he may get it right. I think that these two games may get him right. As far as championship aspirations, Jay, I don't know, man, because we just don't know what Howard you're going to get.
Yeah.
So it's a crapshoot there. If he could play, if he could play the way he's capable of playing, I think they can definitely get it done. But I don't have confidence in him whatsoever.
Yeah, and to Britt's point, they got some great receivers, but if he
can't
can't get them the ball, it's like You
Mhm.
know, and
Yeah.
because he didn't. I mean, their receivers are really, really good, but
Yeah.
they weren't the reason they won the game. So yeah,
Right.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
going to have to get better in the passing game too. From a Penn State perspective, though, you got the ball first and goal from the 3 with an opportunity to tie the game. You got to be able to score. Like, you got to be
Yeah.
3 yards. And K Walk, you're right. I mean, Tyler Warren in that situation at earlier times in the year, they just snap it directly to him
Yeah.
and he just jumps over the top. They've done that several times this year. I don't know why they went away from it in the biggest moment of the season. So for me, that was disappointing because at some point you got to be able to just tighten up your chin strap and go get 3 yards. And we
Yeah, Jay.
do it. And credit to that Ohio State defense. I mean, they
Mhm.
Yeah.
they were not budging. So a lot of credit there. Let me throw this out to you because I'm watching every Penn State football podcast. I'm listening to all the commentary. The Penn State fans are saying fire James Franklin. This man's got to go. I mean, they are on Franklin's head. Now, K Walk, in the past, I believe there have been times where Franklin has made some bad in-game coaching decisions, like going for it on fourth down when he should punt or punting when he should go for it. But I have not seen that at all this year. And I don't think he was the reason why they lost on Saturday at all. But Britt or K Walk, whoever wants to take it, do you think the fire James Franklin calls and chants, do you think there's any merit to that?
Jay, I'm going to say heck no, Jay, because you hear this every time a team loses. I mean, I hear it all the time when the 49ers lose. Fire Kyle Shanahan. Fire Kyle Shanahan. I mean, with the Yankees, they're in the World Series. Fire Aaron Boone. It's just their emotions at that particular time, Jay. I mean, they can't come up with anything other than fire James Franklin. It's the stupidest solution in the world, in my opinion, just to immediately fire the guy that got you to, you were
Yeah.
undefeated coming into that game. You were one play one play away from winning that game. So yeah, you can't put that on James Franklin. To your point, you didn't see anything that he did that warrant him to be not only to be the blame of the game, but to get fired. So
Yeah.
it's just too much for that. So yeah, that's just too much, and it's just and half of the time I just think it's just people just trolling,
Yeah.
in this case, Penn State,
Yeah.
it might be an Ohio State fan like Britt, trolling like, fire James Franklin, to get that petition going, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
where I come
Not,
Yeah.
from?
I'm just saying Ohio State fans or Michigan fans, whatever the case may be. So yeah, definitely an overreaction. I definitely think it's an emotional thing, and they just couldn't think of anything else to go with but to fire James Franklin. But
Yeah.
definitely not warranted
Yeah,
at all.
yeah, that's definitely an overreaction. I mean, you look at his Penn State record, especially in the last couple of years. Didn't y'all just win a Rose Bowl just a couple of years
Couple
ago, if I
years
can recall?
ago. Yep.
Like 11-2, you about 10-3. What last year? You're 7-1 this year, so you're winning. The big thing in college football is that you win and you make
Right.
a bowl game. One of the bowl games, that's usually one of the biggest goals. I mean, the ultimate goal is the national championship, but that is very difficult, of course. I just think no, just keep going on this path. I feel like you guys, I hope not before Ohio State, of course, but you guys will soon get there. No, no, you don't fire him. When what's the name was the head coach for all those years, there were a lot of seasons you didn't make it to the national football game or maybe a bowl game you missed out on. You didn't say fire him. I can't think of his name. Jay helping me out. I
Joe
feel so
Paterno.
Joe Paterno,
yes, Joe
Joe
Paterno,
Pa.
and I feel bad because I'm from this area and I'm supposed to know who Joe Paterno is, so that's my bad. Um, but
When I say Joe Pa, you say Turno.
Yep.
right, but nobody screamed fire Joe Paterno, so give him a chance. Like he's winning, he's doing well, he's winning. The team is playing well right now. So just give him some time. Give him some
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, people that want to fire people, it's like, all right, well, who are you going to go
Yes.
get? Like,
Thank you,
I
Joe.
mean,
Right.
No,
James
I feel
Franklin
that.
wins a lot of games. Like, yeah, he's beaten Ohio State once, but they're better. Like they have a better
Yeah.
team. So the one thing he doesn't do is lose to teams that he's not supposed to. Like
Yes,
every
exactly.
single
Right.
week, you'll see a team get upset. You'll see somebody lose that they're not
Mhm.
supposed to. He doesn't lose to teams that he's better than or teams that
Yeah.
he's favored against or ranked higher than. But Yeah, he hasn't been able to beat Ohio State. Very few people do beat them. So, I mean,
Jay,
it is
let
what
me
it
ask you
is.
this question, Jay. What's his contract up? The reason why I asked the question because I think you should extend that. I think he just got. I don't know if he just got an extension, but
Yeah,
I see James Franklin being there for a long,
yeah,
long
he's got
time.
a long. I
Yeah,
think they just re-upped him for like 7 years, like
yeah,
maybe a
perfect,
year ago.
perfect.
So
Yeah, because
he's
he's
not
that
he's
guy.
not going
Yeah,
anywhere
he's that
anytime
guy.
soon, man.
He's
I
that
think he
guy.
does a good job. He recruits
I do
really
too.
well.
Yeah,
The players like him. He runs a good discipline program. I mean, look, yeah, yes, at some point he's going to have to win one of these games, but
absolutely.
I'm not on that fire James Franklin train with a lot of other people.
I think
Um,
him and Kyle Shanahan should go to some type of meeting. I don't know what they should talk about. How do we get over this dang hump?
get over get over the hump. But they might have another crack at it with this new 12 team college football
Yeah.
playoff. The first rankings came out tonight. I'll run down. Let's talk about a little bit of what we're looking at here. Let's start with the first four teams and then just maybe see if you have any objections to the top four, and then we can kind of move from there. But they got Oregon at number 1,
Mhm.
the Ohio State Buckeyes coming in at number 2. Georgia is sitting at 3, and the undefeated Miami Hurricanes are sitting at 4. Any issues with that top 4? Would you adjust it? Is someone there that shouldn't be? Either one of you. Any thoughts on that top 4?
Go ahead,
I'm sorry,
bro.
what was the
Ladies
top four
first.
again?
Oregon at 1, Ohio State at 2, Georgia at 3, Miami at 4.
No, I'm good. As long as Ohio State's number 2, because we got the one loss. I look, yeah, K Walk, I'm biased as heck. I am
Oh
biased
no,
as
I ain't no
heck.
wrong with that, bro.
Uh,
I'm not even saying anything about that. I
I'm
think
not
those two.
gonna lie. I think we lost to Oregon. Did
You
we?
lost
We
to
lost to
Oregon.
Oregon.
Yep.
So
Lost to
yeah, so
Oregon.
that
Yep.
makes sense to put them in front. Georgia, I feel like Georgia is talented as heck. I just have a lot of questions with them for some reason. I don't know why. They just don't feel the same as they did in the last couple years.
Carson back.
Are you
Right,
okay,
Carson.
Britt, with a one-loss Georgia ahead of an undefeated Miami?
I am. I know a lot of people aren't. They like, no, if you're undefeated, you need to be ranked higher. But I just feel like if they were to go head to head, and this may be a weird math situation that I do in my head. I just think Georgia is just the better team. In Miami, the U, they have showed up. They have been lost for many, many years, but this year I will give them credit. They have showed up. Sorry, K Walk. 'Cause I know you're not a
Oh,
fan of them, or is it Florida
oh
State
no.
is one of them. But I know a lot of people may not agree with me because they are undefeated, but I think Georgia is a overall better team. So
Okay. K Walk, any thoughts on the top 4? Anything you like, don't like, change, rearrange?
Top two, I'm really good with the top two. Top three, the third one, little suspect in my opinion, but looking at the teams behind them, maybe Jay, maybe that fourth team, get them out of here, Jay. Get them out of
Miami?
here. Miami. I know they're 9-0, ladies and gentlemen, but have you watched Miami? Have you watched Miami? Look at the point against, point for, and the point against in Miami's games, and look who they've played. Each and every week, Miami is given up. They have to score at least 40 points, 35 points a game to win. To win, not to look good, but to win. Their defense is atrocious. They've lucked out with the fact of the matter is that the teams that they played, they don't have Clemson on their regular season schedule, even though Clemson lost this past week and lost convincingly too. That was ugly.
Yeah.
So, but with that being said, I think they'll meet in the ACC championship, and I think that'll be the winner. Oh, I think that'll be the winner. But if they continue to win, you got to keep them there. You got to keep them there until they lose. But the eye test tells me, Jay, they don't belong
mhm.
there. They don't belong there. Texas belongs there. I think you put Penn State against Miami, they'll run through them.
Yeah, I
Like
would
I
the
I
think a
wouldn't
lot
Buckeyes
of
mind that
did. Yeah,
matchup. I
yeah.
would not mind
Um,
that matchup.
exactly.
I
And
think
then
a
you
lot
look
of
at
teams will beat Miami.
exactly. And then you look at two undefeated teams in Indiana and BYU, more so Indiana. I think Indiana has proven that they belong in the conversation. But I think right now it's the first week of this, and then I think ultimately it'll play out with the conference championships and then the matchups that come up
Hmm.
as well. So as the age was saying, when the smoke settles, when the cream rises to the top, all those cliches. I think you'll see Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State. Yeah, Penn State. I think Penn State will sneak in there. I mean, as far as
We've
the
got a
top
pretty
four,
favorable schedule going
that's what I'm
forward. Like
saying.
we'll be
That's what I'm saying.
favored in every game. I
Hmm.
mean, we if we play well, we should be 11-1 to close out the
Right.
season. So that should
Exactly.
get us in for sure.
What
But
about
you
Exactly.
got to win the
Texas?
games too. You got to win the games.
Yeah.
What about Texas
Texas,
being
yeah.
up there?
I'm okay.
Texas.
Their
Yeah.
only loss is to Georgia.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
mean, at some point you start running out of team. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
Exactly.
I think probably feel like where are they at number 5? I think that feels okay to
Mhm.
me for
Yeah.
Texas at number 5. I do think Indiana though, because I think if you took Indiana off that jersey and put Michigan or some other team
They'll be in the
and
top
they
four.
played this, Indiana's been beating everybody by at
Yeah.
least 2-3 touchdowns every single week.
Exactly.
Hmm.
I think Indiana is better than Miami. I really do.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
and because it's Indiana, they're getting the short end of the stick. Now they do
Yeah.
play Michigan this week, so we'll find out a little bit more about them, even though Michigan's having a down
Michigan.
year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think Indiana to me is one of those teams that sticks out as being a little bit underranked right
Right.
now.
Mhm.
Jay or K Walk, is that an issue with these rankings? Because you'll have some teams like Indiana that's playing fantastic football, but because they don't have one of the power 4, power 5 school names, they don't get as much credit, and so they get pushed down a little bit done further than what they should be. Is that like a issue with these voters?
I do think so. I think it's hard to kind of put that brand blue blood,
Yeah.
bias to the side.
Hmm.
But I mean, I'm glad to see them ranked at 8 because I mean, a couple weeks
Yeah.
ago they were sitting at like 15, 16. They were
Exactly.
getting no
Right.
respect. So I'm glad to
Mhm.
see them creeping up. But yeah, I do think that plays into it. But I
Yeah.
guarantee you, if you change out Indiana for Michigan, they played the same schedule and won all the games by the same score, they might be ranked in the top 3 in the country.
Yeah.
So I
Mhm.
definitely do think it's a bit of an issue for sure.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree, Britt. I think when you look at it, it's you always look for these committee, you always look for the usual suspects, if you will.
Right.
Is the Oregon's in there? Are the Michigans in there? Are the Texas? And when you have a Miami who hasn't been this time last year, we were talking about Florida State in the same situation.
yep.
Remember that? And
Mhm.
but at least Miami in this particular format will get an opportunity to prove themselves, even if knock on wood, even if their quarterback goes down. So yeah, I mean, I think it'll again once the dust settles. I think we'll see everyone. The top 12 right now, it's going to pan out. This is going to show. This is going to
Right.
prove what it is.
Yeah, and I think an interesting thing too, you look at the SEC and the Big Ten. If you look at that top 12,
Yeah,
both of those conferences have 4 teams in the top
14.
12.
Yep.
And then you got one from the ACC, one from the Big 12, one from the group of 5, and then Notre
Independent.
Dame as an
Independent. Yeah.
independent. So
Right.
ACC, I
Mhm.
mean SEC and Big 10 are the committee right now is clearly viewing those 2 conferences
Exactly.
as the conferences that are going to get the most teams in by far. So that's interesting. Let's real quick talk about Colorado because they did jump in the
Yeah.
rankings at number 20.
Yeah.
Coach Prime's kind of got that thing moving in the right direction. Britt, how do you feel about Colorado? Do you think they have a realistic chance to maybe get into that top 12 before it's all said and done?
They can't lose again. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. That's
I think
facts.
their schedule. They have a favorable schedule. I do believe. I haven't looked at it today, so I can't quite remember. But I do believe last time I checked, they have a pretty favorable
Yeah.
schedule. I think
Yeah.
as long as everybody stays healthy. The biggest thing for me with this team was the trenches. They drastically improved the trenches out. I mean, don't get me wrong. At times, Shador could get just a little bit more time back there. But it seems like they're kind of figuring it out a little bit with these dog of a receivers. They got that receiving core is
Yes.
crazy. Um, I love that receiver core. You can't throw the Travis Hunter side on the defensive side of the ball. So, so they got one side of the field locked down. So if they can hold strong for the rest of the year, I think they can somehow, some way, slip in that top 12. Hopefully, um, I mean it's still going to be tight. It's going to be tight because it is a lot of pressure not to lose just one game.
Right.
You're going up against a lot of horses here that only have one loss or none. So we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. But look, I'm rooting for Colorado to make it. I am rooting for Colorado to make it. I would love to see them in there because I think they provide there's a lot of excitement behind this team. So
Yes.
because of that, they're going to provide a lot of exciting football and everybody's going to be hyped up about it. So I hope they could somehow slide in like into home base, slide in to that 12 seed. So
Yeah, no, Britt, I'm with you. And K Walk, they got Texas Tech,
Yeah.
Utah,
Utah.
Kansas, and Oklahoma State to close out. You think they can run that table?
that's tough.
Yeah, Jay. I mean, these are four high scoring teams. And we've seen the defense from Colorado. Can they
That's
match?
tough.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, Jay, but I think they can do it. Will they do it? Is that the question? That's the question. You know what? I think they will do. So they're at Texas Tech this week. Then they go to Utah. They're at home for Utah. They're at Kansas, and they come home for. I think they will do it, Jay. I think they'll do it because of the fact of the matter is we want to see them. I want to see them in the top
Mhm.
12.
Yeah,
I
me
want to
too.
see them in the top 12 because I want to see if they can truly stomp with the big dogs. And my Martin Lawrence for you. Can they stomp with the big dogs? And I think they can, and I think they will. So I'm like Britt said, there's a small margin of error. So but I'm gonna say yes, they will do it.
Yeah,
They will.
yeah. It's going to be interesting. A lot of football left to be played. Those
For
rankings
sure.
are going to shift a
Sure.
lot over the next 4 weeks. That's for sure. Real quick, y'all, let's jump into some basketball. College basketball sort of had a kickoff. Was that just yesterday? Some things kicked off, women's games, men's games as
Yeah.
well.
Last couple games, yeah.
Um, what
Last
are
couple days.
you most excited about, Brit, or teams, players, whatever, on the men or women's side? Just what are you looking forward to in the college basketball season?
Not trying to be biased. I will watch the
All
men's
right.
when it start. I'm gonna watch them when it starts. But to me, it's just so much excitement with the women's college basketball for me. Paige Buckner's when she's healthy. To me, she was one of the best guards or players in women's college basketball. Even when Caitlin Clark was there, in my opinion, she was just injuries was just a major issue because she plays both sides of the basketball. She plays both sides of the basketball very well. She's a playmaker. She could score. She could play defense. So I'm excited about her. I'm excited, of course, about Juju. Um, but it's the guard play that I'm excited for is with South Carolina. Because they don't really have any bigs or any bigs that we're aware of. I know they have I can't think of their name. I can't think of the one girl's name because I can never say it, so I won't even try to
Malaysia
say it.
Fuwali. Is that who you're talking
Thank
about?
you.
Yeah.
Yes, I can't say it, so I don't say it. But she has a potential to really have a breakout year, of course. And then you have is it Pow Pow? That's what I
Yep.
said. Pow Pow
Pow
is
pow.
there as well. And then you gotta look at LSU. Angel Reese is gone. This is her team. Flauget, this is
Ajay
her
dropped
time now.
25 yesterday. She was good.
Yes. And she's a talent. Again, another two-way player. So we'll see how that goes. I'm just really excited about women's college basketball this year. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Britt, I am right there with you in terms of like the women and the men's college game. Like I'll watch some men's college basketball,
Hmm.
but I've got my YouTube TV set to record like UConn, USC, UCLA, Notre Dame, South Carolina, LSU.
Right.
It's set to record all these women's games.
Hmm.
And the men's games, I'll just kind of fill them in where I do. But I'm way more excited about the women's. It just feels like I just know more. There's just more stars in the women's game, at least for
Yeah.
me right now. I am interested to see Cooper Flag, the freshman
Yeah.
at Duke. I am interested to see
Hmm.
what he can do. There's a lot of hype around him, so I will tune in just to see what he can do. But I spent a lot of yesterday watching women's games, and I feel like for me, that's what it's going to look like most of the season. But K Walk, what's your thoughts, man? What are you excited about for the basketball season?
Yeah, I haven't jumped into the women's side of it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just barely jumping into the men's side of it. I watched last night. Jay mentioned, Cooper Flag with my with Duke, and they played Maine.
Mm-hmm.
I watched that. Then my Tar Heels, my North Carolina Tar Heels, they played Elon. I wanted to see some of these new guys because you got Trimble who's back, and you got my man RJ Davis who saved them last night. They kind of tapered off last night, but he came back for his fifth or sixth year, I think it is. But nonetheless, they look good. They look deep. So I'm excited to see what they're going to bring to the table. Duke, North Carolina, that rivalry is back. It's not just one-sided anymore. So I'm looking forward to that. And then eventually I'll get into the women's side of it, ladies and gentlemen. But right now I'm still down. I'm an NFL guy. I'm a football guy, so I'm looking to that. I was watching the game last night. Between the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. So I was into that. My Miami Heat played last night. Tough loss there. I had that on as well. So I had 3 games going on last night. So they're all three. Well, 2 of my teams and then one Monday night game. So I'm definitely looking forward to college basketball, both men and women's, without question. So we're looking to see exactly how excited, especially. I'm not trying to rush the year by any stretch of imagination, ladies
Yeah,
and gentlemen, but March Madness is going to be very interesting this year for sure.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I'm
for
excited
sure.
for
It's
March
gonna
Man.
be some
I'm
good stuff.
excited for Juju. I
Yeah.
watched the game. Yes, I watched a few of them. I watched the game. When can you come out of women's college basketball to go into the pros? Because I feel like she could enter into
I
the pros and
can you play
dominate
off? You have to play all
I
four,
think
right?
you have to play all
I think
four, or you have to
I think
hit
you
like an
do.
age. There's an age requirement too. So some people hit like if they're a
Hmm.
little bit older, they might hit the age requirement before their 4 years are up. But most
Yeah,
of them have to stay for 4 years. Yeah,
that's going to
and I
change.
think
That's going
Juju's
to change.
young, so I
Man,
think she's
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
stay
she's a sophomore. She's going to be
4 years.
a
Yeah,
sophomore, right?
She's a
Yeah,
sophomore. I'm like, my good. I think she could go into the WNBA now and be a superstar.
yeah,
That's
she's
how
nice.
I
Yeah,
see so much talent in her. It's crazy. And even in the beginning, when she gets a slow start, all of a sudden it starts clicking, and all next thing you know, she done dropped 30 points easily. And it's just like, whoa. But 30 points with about 12 rebounds, and then she'll have about 6 blocks on you. So she's
yeah.
yeah.
nice.
Yeah, she's the real thing. She's so under control too. Like she
Hmm.
can score any way she wants to. So
Fact.
yeah, she's gonna be a lot of fun to watch for sure. Real quick, because I know we got to get ready to wrap up. But K Walk, you brought this up, and I was thinking about it. It's completely different subject change, but Chiefs and Bucks last night. Should they have gone for two? There's a lot of talk about it today, a lot of criticism saying they should have went for two and tried to win the game. What are your thoughts? Should they have gone for two?
Yeah, Jay, I said it live. I was screaming it, not screaming it. I was saying it out loud, saying, "Go for two. You're on the road. What do you have to lose? Because if you go into overtime, you're not going to win because some way, some fashion." But analytics, which I'm not a fan of, ladies and gentlemen, by any stretch of the imagination, tells you to go for two on the road in a situation like that. So yeah, I would have went for it. I know Todd Bowles came out and said that it's because the field was wet and that's the reason why he didn't go. Like that doesn't make any sense to me, Todd. I think Todd. I think with Todd. I think
He's
Todd.
reaching.
Yeah, regretted the
He was
fact that he didn't go
reaching.
for two. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I definitely thought that they should have went for two. In live time, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not just saying that because it's
Mhm.
hindsight. We're Tuesday quarterback quarterbacking this thing, but I really thought they should have went for two in that situation.
Britt,
I don't know. I know what happened in overtime, but it's to me, it's one of those things. Like if they would have went for two and didn't make it, what would the storylines be the next day? Oh, your defense weren't playing that bad. You could have possibly held them at least to a
Oh,
field
yeah.
goal, and then may have had the opportunity to take it down because Baker Mayfield did play great towards the end of the game and made that last minute touchdown to tie it to go into overtime. So I don't know. I don't. You know what? I'm gonna just be neutral here. I don't. Should he have gone for two? Sure. Did he make the right decision? Sure. So I'm gonna stay neutral with this situation because I feel like if he would have went for two and didn't get it, the reports would have been the opposite. Why did you go for two? Your defense. So I'm gonna
We
stay
talk about
neutral
that.
out of this one. I think he made the perfect talk. the perfect call for them at that
Cop
time.
it
That's
out,
all I'm
Britt.
gonna
Cop.
say.
That's the cop
Yeah,
out answer,
I
Britt.
like. No, I don't
We
because
talking
look,
about it now, Britt. He didn't go for it.
I
We talking
know,
about shit
but
here. So we
I
talking about no matter what.
understand. Look, I understand that who you're going up against. You know, I mean, if you think about it, the defense did hold them a couple times, right? The defense, and I understand it's Patrick Mahomes. Odds are the rest are going to be against you and all this other stuff. But what happened if they would have had the coin flip first and went down and scored the touchdown? So
It's funny you said that, Britt.
I'm not.
I've been
Go
told
ahead.
that Britt that coins that the coin on one side said Kansas City and the other side said Chiefs. That's
Well, in
what I was
that
told.
case, if that's the case, K-Walk, then they should have gone for two and just
Did you not
ended
see
it
Baker Mayfield's
in
reaction
regulation.
after it was tails? He was like, game over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
Game
so
over.
maybe
it's
they should have went for two, but we just know how it is.
Yeah, I'm kind of look, I know like when I was coaching and kind of I always like to keep the game going. Like I think I would have
Mhm.
kicked the field goal. I really do. I the only time I like want to go for two is like if usually in a college game where you're like a major underdog and you've got like a you know, you're going up against a powerhouse and you're not supposed to win and you're in the game and you have a chance to win it right there. Then I'm like a fan of going for two, but I don't know. I
Uh,
was okay with him tying the game up. I heard
yeah.
some people talking today. 2-point conversions, they only make them 31% of the time.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's
Right.
a real high clip that teams are converting 2-point conversions. So I was okay with him kicking the field goal. Look, at some point you got to play defense. Like now,
Yeah.
if the rule was still in where a field goal could beat you and you don't get the ball back, fine. Go for two, try to win the game. But like play some defense and stop them from scoring a touchdown. So I was okay with it, but I can see it from both sides. But I am not killing Todd Bowles today for not going for two.
Jay, you said
I, I'm
31% is
with
the
you.
number?
31%.
So they
Yep.
do have a chance.
They got a chance.
They
They
got
got
a
a
chance.
chance.
Yes, they have a chance, but I'm with you, Jay. I didn't see a problem in it. You know, your defense wasn't playing horrible, so they weren't
Yeah.
playing horrible at all. So you had an opportunity to stop them, you just didn't stop them. So there you go.
18 versus 11. 18
Yeah.
versus 11. That's all I'm saying.
All right, y'all. Good stuff. That was a fun show. Before we get out of here, K-Walk, let the people know where they can find you and anything else you're looking forward to this week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. You can find me on on Facebook, Kevin Walker, Instagram, Kevin dot Walker 142. Same as X at Kevin Walker 142. Tomorrow night, God willing, come on, sister, work for me, please. Sports Talk with K Walk, E. Scott, never had it so good. Sports Radio, 7 p.m. Wherever you listen to your podcast, we're there, ladies and gentlemen. Again, Sports Talk with K Walk, E. Scott. We're geared up. We got a great one for you tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen. New segment as well. Is he good? Please come in and check that one out. I'm not going to give it away. I want you guys to check it out. Give me your thoughts and opinions on this. Looking forward to more football, more basketball. We talked about that. And I'm looking at these polls right now, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone out there did the job and went out there and vote. I'm nervous as heck right now, ladies and gentlemen. I'm nervous as heck right now. That's all I'm going to say right now. I'm just saying, if that don't tell you, I'm not giving away who I voted for, but I'm nervous as heck right now. That's all I'm going to say. All right. So with that being said, I hope everyone have a great weekend, and hopefully everything pans out for who I went with.
Okay, well, I'm with you. I'll watch it and I'll see what happens in the morning if the results are in tomorrow morning.
I'm
So
not gonna be able to sleep, Britt. I know.
we probably won't find the
Yeah,
results.
I don't think we're
right
going to
now,
know tonight.
but
I don't think.
Like I said, I'm not going to be able to sleep until I know.
But K-Walk's going to be up all night, ladies and gentlemen. Good stuff, K-Walk. You guys can find me at Jason Talk Sports on all different social media platforms at Jason Talk Sports. And yeah, I mean, every sport happening right now, I'm into college football, pro football. We talked about basketball season kicking off, NBA and college. So great time of the year to be a sports fan. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Britt, what you got for us?
You guys can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, as well as Instagram at Brittany Monique's at the bottom of my screen. I'm looking forward to, of course, the rest of college football, NFL season, of course, NBA has officially taken off, and then college basketball. You know, the last one that we're really waiting for is college basketball, and I'm really excited about college basketball. I will be watching the men's, but the women's just they just have the superstar talent that I love, and I do like Cooper Flag as well, so I'll be watching him. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Oh, Britt,
And just
come
the
on.
and
Can't see
just
RJ
no
Davis
the
women.
talent. I'm not a Dookie. I'm not a fan of Duke. I don't think I really have a men's basketball team anyway. But he's a good talent. He's a good basketball player. So but into second what K Walk said, the polls on my side, I believe, are closed over here on the East Coast, but on the
Yeah,
West
it's
Coast, I
versus
think you
Coast.
still have time. So if you guys are watching, if you still have time to go vote, vote. Again, use your voice to vote. Your voice does matter. Don't listen to I'm gonna say it flat out, straight up, don't listen to the idiots. Do not listen to the idiots. There's a reason why people go and vote, because they know it matters. So your voice does matter. So go ahead and vote.
All right, good stuff, Britt. That's a great place to end it. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you guys listening to the Sideline Speaks. Do us a favor, hit that like button, just share it, subscribe. As Britt said, we are growing slowly but surely. We're going to stay at this thing and get this channel where it needs to be. Anything you can do to help us, we greatly appreciate it. We'll be back here live next Tuesday at 7 p.m. So for Brittany Jones and Kevin Walker, I'm Jason Collins. We'll see you next week.